Hello, friends. This is Siva here. Today, I'm going to talk briefly about my spirituality, the journey being before meeting Mohanji and after meeting Mohanji, right? And the transformation that happened after meeting Mohanji. So, first, to make a meaningful impact of about all this the journey, right? So, I'll briefly mention about my what my spiritual inclinations were when I was a child. When I was a child. So during childhood, I wasn't ritualistic at all. I was hardly going to any temple, and my mom has to literally drag me to the temple. And so whenever she used to drag me to the temple, I used to just accompany her. And then I used to go to the temple and watch the people that come to pray, various kinds of people, the rich, poor, and the habitual people. What do they really play? What do they really pray for? And how happy they are, and all this stuff, right? So, and I used to watch that for fun and see what the real spirituality and would they have real faith or not. So that continued for some time. And during seventh and eighth grade, and possibly sometime in the ninth grade also, I was practicing yoga. Um, and during eighth and ninth grades, particularly, I was reading Swami Vivekananda works. And one of the things I can understand is at the time I did not understand what Vivekananda completely was talking about because he was talking about a very high level from the philosophy, Vedanta philosophy. And the one thing I liked about Swami Vivekananda was his practicality and how to apply Vedanta in real life and the ability to experiment with the Vedantic principles and all these principles in the Upanishads and all this stuff that they have clearly described so much about the abstract. And that was very clear even from his own life of Swami Vivekananda. He used to experiment a lot and he said Hinduism is one thing, that tradition is one that allows you to experiment with tradition. Just they mentioned in those books, not just merely accept as they are, because they were understandable to the saints and sages and so forth, right? So I like the practicality aspect of it. So the practicality aspect from Swami Vivekananda continued quite for some time. So I used to look for the practical, and whenever I used to meet somebody who is so-called spiritual, I used to look for the practical aspects of it. The other thing I would briefly mention about the regarding spiritual inclinations in the childhood were whenever I used to go to the libraries, so I usually read about. I was particularly interested in yoga and anything related to Bhagavad Gita. So as long as this is short, if it is not running for several pages, then if it's a page or a little bit more than a page, I would read about it. And that it used to really sink in very deep into them. And I don't know why. And the only thing at this moment I can understand is probably it has something to do with the previous birth inclination or whatever. Right? So with that background, I'll quickly jump over the education and marriage and all this stuff. I'll quickly jump to year 2009. So that we can spend more time on the exploration of spirituality and how I was kind of woken up from a deep slumber. Right? So I'll jump to year 2009. So it was kind of a perfect storm when there was a lot of stress in the workplace and a lot of turmoil from a family perspective on my side, and there were a lot of financial what if scenarios. What's going to happen? So I was very anxious and thinking a lot about what's going to happen if this scenario will come to true and all this stuff. Right? And I used to spend a lot of time, and so the stress and the strain on the health actually took a toll. And of course, I had to go some surgery and all that stuff. So okay, that was done. So after that was done in the end of 2009, so in 2010 I was thinking, okay, why all these things are happening to me? And so all these things are happening to me. So it was and then I was thinking about the yoga practice I used to do in childhood. So I restarted the yoga I used to do it. I picked up because I had a foundational background in the yoga, so I started picking up stuff from internet and then started doing it. While I was doing yoga at the same time, I was thinking, okay, is it just yoga, or does it have to be something in the mind or the way of thinking, the way I was viewing certain aspects, certain events of the life? Slowly I stumbled upon Swami Rama, who is practical on yoga and who experienced all these uh, spiritual experiences and gained the spiritual stature by doing yoga as well as practicing various techniques mentioned in the classical text. Right? And I listened to him quite a bit, and I read a lot on his website, uh, and there were quite a few Upanishads he put up. He discussed quite in detail. Sometimes some of them were done even with the diagrams just to make understand. It was given to a Western audience, so definitely he westernized as much as possible. So, not putting a lot of Vedantic words into it, and he actually explained it in everyday terms. So I liked it quite a bit at the time. So since I was undergoing the turmoil, and then the Upanishad knowledge was coming, then I understood something that I read from another master, right? Ramakrishna Paramsa was Swami Vivekananda's master, and he used to say, life gives you hard experiences first, and then knowledge later. So with that, that was a clear example of with the life demonstrating to me. So once I'm done with the Swami Rama, I reread that several times, and then once I was satisfied, I was thinking, okay, how do I handle or control the mind aspects, right? So gradually, I was led to Osho. The very first article I read on Osho was very was impactful, but it was talking about the mind and how mind wants to move. It wants to move either the forward and the backward along the space time, either thinking about past experiences or sorry, past events or future events, and it never wants to be in the present, right? It has to be trained hard to stay in the present, where the misery is not there. So with that, I was slowly introduced, and then I was reading a lot on internet. It's probably around 2011-ish, probably 11 or 12, around the time frame. And then I got his book, which is the Book of Secrets, which is 100. It has 112 meditation techniques, which is actually nothing but Vijnana Bhairavi, which is the Tantra knowledge which Shiva gave to Parvati. Right? And at that time, around that time frame, something else happened too. So there was a Hindi serial called Devanka Dev Mahadev. So I used to watch it, and I don't know why I liked it. I kind of liked it, and I started watching it. So after watching for maybe a couple of months or so, I kind of understood that various life events in my life and some of the aspects of Shiva are matching, and then understood, hey, it's almost like the Sharik path. It was kind of predetermined. Now I understood, okay, why I was on the Sharik path, why I like certain things, why I didn't like certain things. Um, it went on for some time. And then when I used to watch that, whenever there was a topic of interest to me, I used to check with the classical text or ask people who read classical text just to confirm that that is true. It's not just depicted in some serial. It actually was written down. Right? So this continued for 2000, maybe 12. So 2012, I was reading about. I mean, I was doing yoga and reading about Osho and the serial, understanding about Shaivism. Um, then something else also happened. I was thinking about, okay, hey, maybe I can. Everybody talks about Kundalini. Maybe I can start experimenting on Kundalini. One thing I always liked the practical aspects of Vedanta or philosophy was you should be able to experiment it, and you should be able to experience the truth, your own truth, right, and understand it from your own perspective, from your own experience, not just from the bookish knowledge. So I said, okay, let me try and experience that. And then I picked up something on the internet and did practices some Kundalini yoga. So I had some experiences. And then my wife was getting scared. It's like, okay, you're not supposed to do all these things without having a guru. And she kept on complaining, so I didn't listen. I was doing my own stuff, and then after some months, she was nonstop. So I said, okay, I'll stop it just to stop this never-ending pestilence, right? And then pestilence rather. Um, and then I stopped it, and then I continued watching the serial and reading books and all this stuff. And during the time frame, or around the time frame, so I was thinking maybe in 2013, I was definitely thinking about going to Kailash. Going to Kailash, how to go there, and what are the minimum things required, and who I can go and all that stuff. I was thinking about Kailash in 2013. And then it started, and at the same time, maybe around 2011 or 12, I was exposed to Paramahamsa Yogananda. After that, after I was satisfied with enough of reading of Osho and listening to him, I was slowly led to Paramahamsa Yogananda, then read his books and became a member of the Saraf Society and started going to the Saraf Center. And then after some time later, I came to know about the initiation, the Kriya initiation, all this stuff. So one of the things the conditions in the Kriya Yoga SRF society was to get initiated there. You got to drop all practices, all gurus, all gods, and everything, and just only accept their gurus and their teaching as the only medium to reach the goal, right? So that time I didn't want to drop any of my practices or the Shadik path. So I put in a request, a humble request in some couple of meditation sessions that, okay, please lead me. I don't want to leave you, and at the same time, I want to drop the Shadik path. So please lead me to someone who is connected to your tradition and Shiva, and who is not ritualistic. Maybe about 1.5 month later, my wife actually found article on Mohanji. Those days, whenever we find time, even when I was driving, I used to search on spirituality. Right? We used to read a lot and explore and find who's doing what and what kind of experiences, various kinds of philosophies and all that stuff. So the very first article I read, it was night around 11 or 11:30, maybe late Feb time frame, late Feb, early March time frame, in 2015, I guess. And I stumbled upon Mohanji article. The very first article I read, I knew that it was him that I was looking for. Actually, one more incident I would actually want to mention before I stumbled upon Mohanji was as we were exploring a lot about various gurus. One of my friends had introduced us to one of the guru, and we had some experiences, but I was still looking for somebody who kind of who is in the Sharik path, and the search continued, right? So therefore, when I stumbled upon the first article, I knew it was him that I was looking for. The next day, I spoke to Lataji. She said she came. Mohanji already came to the US on that day, for that year, and he may not come again that year. So So that continues. So I was trying to see where he is in India and all this stuff, and then I want to track him down and then see if he can get. So that's how my now I will start with the journey with Mohanji. Right? So I was finally able to meet Mohanji towards the end of 2015, and when I met him first time, he said. Being practical is being spiritual. So just confirming all the masters that I have had till the time, um, whom I was following. So they had the same thing that they display the same aspect, and the Mohanji also displays the same aspect as well. So the other thing, what was the reason for to look for a living guru, right? I'll just come to that briefly. So where I read all these books and had experiences, even without meeting a physical guru. So this definitely confirms the that those practices are real. And if you're faithful, truthful, and if you practice consistently, you will be led onto the path, right? And the other thing that I have read before, I read various blogs and books. One of the points that come out of all these things is masters who are self-realized or who are enlightened easily display all the various aspects of the supreme consciousness, right? As a matter of fact. So the reason for looking for living guru is like I just want to see a living person who displays all those aspects or some of the aspects as a matter of fact and without any airs about it, and so have a real experience of this fire of awareness in real person. Right? So after meeting Mohanji, the very first thing is he said that, and then they played the Shiv Kavacham. So the very first time I heard about it, there was a deep connect. And so I asked for a copy, and then Mohanji asked Rajesh to provide me a copy. And one of the things, I'll briefly talk about some of my experience with Mohanji. So not all of them, just some of them, otherwise it become too long. Was There's a blog written about listening too many times to Shiva Kavacham, and their recommendation was listen only 2 times. And because one of them who did otherwise had some visits from one of the ganas who are those people who not people entities that live with along with Shiva, right? It's in text, you can find out about it. Um, so I said, okay, I'm gonna experiment. I like it, so I'll play it I'll listen to it as many times as possible in a day. And if they want to come, let them come. I'll see how they are, how ugly they are. And nobody came, not so far. It's been 5 years, nobody's came. So if they come, I'll invite them to. So that's one. So I'll just briefly move on to the next phase of interaction with Mohanji. So I was looking for, still looking for a team or a company who can visit Kailash, right? And I came to know that Mohanji's group organizes events, and then he goes. So it'll be like a beautiful experience to be going with the spiritual centers with a living guru, right? With so many like-minded people, and the other thing is to understand that some of these people were exposed to and also have seen some of the aspects of Shiva or Supreme Consciousness that Mohanji displays. As a matter of fact, and he had it's probably displayed in a very, very subtle fashion. You got to be attentive to catch it. Right? And then I heard a lot of things from a lot of people who were already disciples at the time, and so I was supposed to then everything was decided. So 2016 August was the Kailash trip, right? And it seemed I'm talking all these things because I'm talking about things in the past. All these things make a meaning when you look back, not when you look forward. Right? So it seems that we have to go through some near-death experience just to get to eligibility to visit Kailash. So I was touring Kerala at the time, and so near Munnar. So we went to see Munnar, and we saw Munnar, and we, as a family, we were trying to get out of the hill town. And Munnar is a nice hilltop resort, not a resort. It's a resort town, but nice weather, nice trees, a lot of nature to see, a lot of waterfalls, various kinds of trees, flowers, and waterfalls to see there. Right? Excuse me. As we were trying to get out, it's of course with the hilly roads, with the hairpin joints, some of them, and I was driving the car, and luckily on that day, none of us were wearing seat belts, and the windows were mostly down. It happened to be a luck. And at one of the hairpin joints, I lost control of the car, and the car started going straight instead of following the road, and then we started tumbling down the valley. Right? And the valley was deep, about 800 feet, 1,000 feet to the depth, and there are some trees and rocks and boulders on the way. And we tumbled, we were turning over a couple of times, maybe tumbled probably 7, 8 times, and then we came across a tree and a big stone. They stopped us. They stopped the car from further going down. And because there were no windows were all, everything was broken into pieces. So I was able to easily get out of the car and drag my wife and daughter out of the car, and we were climbing back up the hill. And so at the same time, one of the persons from opposite to that valley saw the car screeching all the screeching sounds and all that. She started coming down, and then she started screaming for people. So people gathered and they helped us out. And so one of the things I had to mention is there was a van passing by. I don't know any of these people. It's a new place, so they said, "We'll help you," out of nowhere. Right? And we'll take it to the nearest hospital. You need to get checked out and get some first aid to see if you need more medical attention immediately. So they took us immediately and dropped it at the hospital. And they didn't even accept any money because there's nothing I can do because there's some completely a newcomer who I never met in life and offering free help, unconditional help. And okay, so we had after that first aid. So we came back home, and then went to a bigger hospital. Had all the scanning, various kinds of scans done, and then me and my wife had to go do some physiotherapy. Okay? This continued for a couple of weeks, maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and after this. We had to practice walking for Kailash because at least that's what we could do at the time, that at least we can practice walking so that we will be familiar with long walks because one of the days because the Kailash trip is probably you have to walk if you have to do a circumambulation it's of 3 days. The second day is a little bit tougher, so you got to walk more than 15 kilometers on the day with the rocky terrain up and down. Right? So we're practicing long walks at the time. So I will briefly jump to the Kailash trip right now. Even before that, I'll just briefly jump to Kailash trip so that way we don't make it too long. So the Kailash trip, we all assembled at the Mansarovar. So there was a Havan, so we did the Havan. And though I read about Mohanji being expanded state in spiritual centers, and of course even satsangs in as and when required. This is the first time I'm having first-hand experience of that. Right? So the havan was done, and everybody was lined up to get their lunch, and they were getting lunch, and I was sitting down and on the sand and watching the pond, and watching the lake, and with the Kailash background on the backside of the lake. And Mohanji got his food, got his lunch plate. And I was sitting there on the sand. He was up, so I immediately got up and then gave my right hand so that I can assist him to slowly get down on the ground and settle down. And at that time, I did not understand how expanded he was, and I did not understand the what a simple touch can do for you. So I gave my right hand. He took it, and then he sat down. And I asked him simple question. He answered something matter of fact, as if he's focusing on something else. And he asked me, "Did you have food?" So I said, "Not yet. I'll just wait for some time." And then it continued for one more minute. I asked one more simple question. He said, "Did you have food?" Yeah, this time he asked very sternly. So I understood that he was trying to convey something to me. So got up and had my food. So roughly about, and then we got started back in the bus and started going back. Roughly half an hour about this, after this, and there was intense pain at my Ajna chakra, and I didn't know what to do, and it was intense. So I asked some people who were already with Mohanji for a couple of years. So Rajesh Kamat said, it's probably he's burning a lot of karma for you, and that Havan was very powerful. Right? This is the first-hand experience with the master of burning karma within the body. Right? And it continued for the next day. And okay, so that was the experience. Of course, there was a couple others, but we'll talk about the important one just to keep it short. Um, and after that, the other event I went with Mohanji was Badrinath. So went with Badrinath. I'll briefly jump straight away to the experience rather than everything else. So the weather was bad. We were supposed to spend 3 days, and then because of the bad weather, we had to spend additional 2 days in Badrinath, which was good. We got a chance to spend more time in the temple town and then visit various places around it, and the power centers around it. And so one of the things in one of the satsang he said, good cleansing. That's the only thing he told me, and so I didn't understand at the time what he meant, but because he already gave such a beautiful experience in Kailash, I know that when he says so, he already did it, right? Okay, the trip ended. So I was back home, back in US, and I still used to go to Yogananda Sarv Society now and then um, because I didn't break my connection with Yogananda, and still do. I think about him sometimes still. So when I went to one of the sessions, I was very peaceful at the time for that session. The very first photo I saw on the day was Lahari Mashaya, and then I just saw him, and then I closed my eyes, and then energy started pouring down as if I'm just beneath a waterfall, right? It was so much. So I didn't even think. I was just watching the beautiful energy pouring down my spine, uh, and then I was, the same time, I could hear some music. And the energy was pouring down. It was so intense. The meditation session was completed. It's almost an hour, and I didn't want to move. I didn't want to disturb. I didn't want to lose that beautiful flowing energy. So I came out of that, and I came and out of the meditation room, and sat outside for one more hour. It continued. Then I came back home. I started listening to music, the internal music. It's called, I mean, the stringless music. You don't hear anything. It's all coming from inside the body. And it continued for next 1.5 days. I just locked myself in the room. I just listened to the music. That's all. That music. And one of the next trips, and of course, I met Mohanji a couple of times in between, online as well as when he came to US. Uh, and the other trip I would briefly talk about before concluding this is in 2019 I went to Kumbh Mela in February. Um, it was in a place where called Sangam, where three rivers meet, and then I every day, almost every day, I took a river bath. Um, and one of the things that happened towards the end of it, or probably yeah, towards the end of it, was I had one-on-one with him, and he said, "You need to start accepting." I asked him, "How do I move further on?" He said, "You need to start accepting everything that comes to you. You have to practice a lot of self-acceptance so that you can go much further." And one of the things that happened on the day was during Sangam, one of the auspicious days. So Mohanji was also there with us in Sangam and with all our followers and the team that got over there. And we were going down and in the Sangam, in the river waters, to him, to his feet. And several people were going down. And so we did some dips like that and spent a lot of time with those cold waters. And because of my everyday dip and also the other spiritual ambience and the spiritual environment of Kumbh Mela with Mohanji's blessings, I kind of realized that there's a lot of cleansing happening. And Preeti to go, I think we were, it was time to leave, or probably the day before, and everybody was packing up, and Preeti to go said, "Hey, this is Mohanji's tea. Is a tea packet. I mean, tea box. He uses from here. I think you should have it." So I didn't realize at the time what she was talking. She said, "Okay, no, I'm good. I will be okay." And then after an hour and later, maybe we just crossed again. She mentioned again, "I think you probably need it, and you should have it." Uh, I was thinking whether is it Mohanji talking through her. So I said, "Okay, fine, I'll take it," because Mohanji touched them. And I didn't realize that a lot of cleansing happened. I didn't know how much was done. So what happened is I had a stopover at Delhi, and my flight to Delhi got delayed, and I had to stay in a hotel that night. And that night, intense cold just struck me, and I was drinking tea all night. So that Mohanji's tea helped me a lot to recover, and then I could take the next day's flight to back to US. There are a lot of other experiences I just skipped. I don't want to keep continuing this long, otherwise the video will become too long. What I will, based upon these last 5 years of experience with, maybe 4 years of experience with Mohanji was, um, he states it several times that I'm an empty part. Whatever is required, whatever aspects of energy or whatever aspects of supreme consciousness were required to display and to fix the problems for the people in front of me, that gets filled in and that gets displayed. And it was done. Matter of fact, I've seen it several satsangs in US and in these events when I went to these events. All I can say is he keeps confirming that the only eligibility for you is emptiness, right? The amount of emptiness. The more empty you are, the more empty your mind, the more will get filled in. And the other thing he keeps telling is your experience is dependent upon your eligibility. Your eligibility is strictly based upon how much you offload your mind and how much emptiness. So it's all about talking about emptiness, 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 right? And that is purely a Shaivik path. And this just confirms that my path and my events in the both um, events leading up to Mohanji, and also with Mohanji confirmed that I'm the same path. And along with he blessed me with the Kriya practice 2016. So as I continued practicing, so I stabilized a lot. So I can see clear distinction between the first event to subsequent events or subsequent meetings with him. Let's say clear marked difference, and also became more calm and stable to the turbulent events of life. And actually, some of them, a couple of people actually commented to me when there was a lot of turbulence, even last year. It's like, do you really understand them, or are you just calm? It's like, okay, that actually is a confirmation that, oh, hey, things are happening. So this is, so I'm actually taking only these confirmations from outsiders who haven't seen or who haven't doesn't know about what you're actually doing internally and what practices you're doing. So with that said, I will just conclude this video with Mohanji. He's talking about emptiness, emptiness, breaking the chains of the mind. And emptiness means emptiness of the mind. So if you want to get filled in, being more empty, and all his satsangs, all his blogs, and a majority of his talks on YouTube and other channels, they talk about how to make yourself empty, what are the various practices, and what are the practical aspects of life, everyday life, that you can follow to get there. And he keeps saying the destination is you, the path is you. I'm just a, I'm just a mile marker. I'm just showing the path. So with that said, I'll just conclude it, just to keep it short. Thank you, Mohanji, for all the light you have shown me, all the various cleansing you have done, and the path you have shown to me, and continued guidance from him every day in the path of either course or speeches or talks or events. Thank you. It's truly a blessing. Um, and actually in Kailash, he asked him a question in one. He says, "How am I related to you, or how am I connected to you?" All he said is, if your aspiration is supreme consciousness, a guru will be provided to you. So his famous, one of the quotes I would like to tell you for new people who want to try spirituality, who want to test the waters, is if the disciple is ready, a guru will happen. So that is the promise of the tradition. Okay. So with that said, I'll conclude this. Thank you for listening.